So Zach, tell us about your butt.
My butt's it's great.
It's great. What do you think, Dakota?
I think it's a wonderful butt.
Cool.
Are we talking hole or are we talking cheeks?
I mean, we're talking all of it.
Oh, okay. Well, I have hemorrhoids. So.
Oh.
Two bros chilling on a podcast, 5 feet apart, because they're not gay.
You gotta be way louder.
Hey, shut the fuck up.
Hey guys, welcome to the Social Disruption Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton.
And I'm the co-host, Dakota.
And we're continuing our month of Spooptober with some more spooky stuff to talk about.
Like ghosts and things that go bump in the night.
Right. Dakota, what have we talked about before?
We talked about the history of Halloween and the way that it's changed over the years.
Yeah.
And then
we talked about some fear things, some scary movies, TV shows, stuff like that, the science of fear and whatnot.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about ghosts in real life.
Real life ghosts.
Real life, IRL ghosts.
Do you know a lot about real life ghosts?
I didn't until I started looking it up, but now I do.
All right, well, I don't know shit about ghosts.
Well, I'm going to teach you. And you know what else? We have a special guest today.
Hey!
So, buddy of mine reaches out to me and goes, hey, man, really want to be on your podcast. What are you into? And I had never met this man in my life before this meeting. So, I go and hang out with them, and I told him about our spooky stuff, and he just wanted to come talk to us.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good time.
So, it is a pretty good time. So, without further ado, in the studio with us, we have Mr. Greendad Zach himself, Zach Burleson.
Yeah, just plug the name.
Oh, we can just cut your real name out if you want.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. Greendad. Oh, no, the name's fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
What's up, man?
Not shit. I came to talk about spooky shit with y'all.
Yay, thank you so much.
Can I cuss?
Yeah.
Because that's all I fucking do.
Hell
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, my mom said something about language, but I can't police other people.
Yeah, no, my mom is a bitch. That was cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
I started on social media and I was just posting from like a personal page, and it was a lot of observational humor about my kids and stuff, and it started to kind of take off. A lot of people started to like it and share it and stuff, and then after a while, I realized that the observational humor was kind of going somewhere. So that's when I created Greendad, Zach, because a lot of it's about my children. And then I branched off to my normal comedy, and that's where we're at now. Like, it's really kind of taken off, getting a lot of love.
Nice, dude. Do you have what's the name of your page for all your collected writings and stuff?
Day Old Soup is my writing page.
Day Old Soup.
Yeah.
And that's on Facebook?
I was going for like a chicken soup for the awkward soul and stuff, and then it just went down and became Day Old Soup.
All right, man, I love it. We'll definitely check it out.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I know your posts have made me laugh. Because I know when I started posting a lot of like really stupid stories and shit on Facebook for a while there, and like no one else was really doing that until I added you, because I knew Lisa before y'all got together.
Yeah, it's my wife.
Yeah, his wife Lisa. And
Plug my wife.
Hi Lisa. I'm on the hot plug your wife.
Phrasing.
I knew Lisa. They don't know who the fuck Lisa is.
Yeah, sorry.
Plug my wife, he says. You heard it here first, folks.
Because I don't do it enough.
All right, so you ready to talk about some ghosts?
Let's fucking do it.
Dakota?
You better surprise me with some shit.
I mean, absolutely.
I might have a couple of spicy nuggets in here you've never heard. He says he knows a lot about ghosts.
All right. Are you down for some spicy nuggets tonight?
Give me a dude.
We're not talking about your hemorrhoids this time.
You just push them back up.
All right, what you got, guy?
Okay, I'm gonna go, first off, can any of y'all take a guess when the first quote-unquote recorded, that's a hint, by the way, sighting of a ghost was?
I mean, you told me this earlier, so I can't
did tell
guess.
you. So
God
really,
damn it. You're supposed to keep this.
I was excited. It was a fun fact.
Yeah, so I can't really chime in on this, but I guarantee you it's earlier than you think.
I'm going to say 1895.
Try about thousands of years prior in ancient Egypt.
Shut the fuck up.
1200 BC.
1200 BC. Now, in 1915...
You said video evidence, I thought.
You said recorded.
Recorded evidence.
Recorded
Oh,
evidence.
okay.
As in, whatever. So
Them boys was talking about ghosts and hieroglyphics.
There we go.
They were.
It was on the cave walls.
I mean, that's literally what it was.
Yeah.
So in 1915, Egyptologist Gaston Maspero published a translation of an ancient Egyptian ghost story, possibly set in Luxor, which is ancient Thebes, if you know what that is. I don't. I'm reading stuff.
I have no idea. You
But-
guys have laptops.
Yeah.
I just have the recording software. I don't know shit about this. He's the one that's looking stuff up.
do it.
It was discovered on 4 pieces of pottery. And in the story, a ghost of a mummified man tells a high priest of the god Amun about his current condition, and the hieroglyphics read as such: I grew, and I did not see the rays of the sun. I did not breathe the air, but darkness was before me every day, and no one came to find me.
That's fucking.
That's dope.
That's awesome.
That's
dude.
really cool.
I can't even write like that.
Right. It's so. I don't know. Just the way it was described, I was like, that's why I was so excited to tell you earlier.
That
Because
way.
I was
Yeah,
like, that's just a cool fucking thing to say.
That's why y'all cheated. I get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we just a little bit.
I'm not sorry.
No, you're not.
But the Egyptians believed strongly in life after death. So this was either like just the case of some prankster, or it was a ghost kind of confirming the idea that, hey, we were right this whole time.
A lot of fucking pranksters out there. I'm sure there has been for thousands of years.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Can't-
We're gonna
You
get.
can't
to that,
have
though,
school without the class clown. I mean, you're gonna have somebody that's making ghost stories all the time. You gotta have
Exactly.
stories to tell around the campfire. I don't know if Egyptians had campfires or whatever.
I'm sure
but-
they had fires.
Yeah, I mean, they
definitely.
They didn't have light bulbs.
They didn't.
So we're gonna kind of go this article I found on livescience.com. It's kind of like 10 haunted ghost like stories type things of like recorded ghost sightings, and it kind of goes in chronological order. So
Okay.
we're gonna fast forward a little bit into ancient Rome, 113 AD, and this is the story of the chained man in ancient Athens.
Sounds amazing.
You ever heard of the story of the chained
I
man?
have not.
Ooh, so
Yeah,
somebody
you
that
fucking
says
got
that
me
you were-
already.
Learned on ghost
Oh,
stories.
whatever. Come on, we're back to fucking ancient times and shit. I was like thinking like 1900s.
Okay,
mean,
you're
yeah,
more
there's
you're
still
more modern ghosts. I got you.
Yeah, that's what I'm into. You know?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so there was at Athens a large and roomy house which had a bad name, so that no one could live there. In the dead of the night, a noise resembling the clashing of iron was frequently heard, which, if you listened more attentively, sounded like the rattling of chains. And a Roman senator named Gee Whiz.
Throw it in, bro. Do not. At least send me that sample.
No cuts. No cuts.
Yeah. So a Roman senator, Pliny the Younger, used to tell everyone that story back in the day because he actually experienced it for himself when he like was living in that quote unquote house with no name. But after he left, the house was abandoned and had to be rented out for a cheap price. A philosopher named Athenodorus heard the story and rented the house and confronted the ghost. It appeared, rattled around, and vanished.
He confronted the ghost.
He did.
Apparently, he like squared up.
Bro, what the fuck you doing in here?
He calmly marked the spot where the ghost vanished, and in the morning ordered the spot be dug up. And so the story goes. And the skeleton of a man in chains was found right there where the ghost came out.
So
Like
they
that
dug.
some
You're,
shit.
you're saying that they just demolished the house. You said it was a house, right?
Yeah, it was a house, and wherever the ghost was like appearing to him, he marked the spot.
And directly under
And
it
in
was
the morning,
a
he
skeleton of a man in chains.
Yeah, a skeleton of a man in chains.
That's pretty fucking intense.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
So, more from Athens.
Happy Halloween, bitches.
Yeah. The boarded up bathhouse.
Ooh.
Still hanging out in ancient Greece.
This one has
It's getting sexy.
but this one has a sadder ending.
Oh God.
This one is around 120 AD
Yeah.
Oh, is this gonna be like about a kid or some shit?
in,
well,
in the city of Sharona, Greece.
Oh, like the song. Okay.
Nice.
Sharona.
Yes.
It's a fucked up song now that I think about it.
Okay. There was a boy named Damon who attracted the attention of a Roman military commander who apparently loved him, historical records suggest. Because,
Greeks
They-
were about that gay shit.
They
No,
were.
They were. They
They
really
were.
fucking were.
or as the historians used to always say, just the women were unwed. The dudes were gay.
The two cats why they were unwed. Yeah.
There was a lot of gay
They're
guys.
fucking David.
Yeah. So David refused the commander's advances, which enraged him. Knowing that he would be killed if he did nothing, Damon got a group of friends together, ambushed the Roman commander, killing them. Oh, wait, several other Roman soldiers, and killed all of them.
So David got a group together.
David got everyone together.
See, you're saying this is a bad story. This is a story of like redemption, revenge.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
seriously,
story's
like,
not over, man.
Oh.
The commander came up and was like, "I'm just trying to get that booty." And he was like, "Well, this ain't happening. I'm gonna kill you and your friends."
I'm just saying,
He formed a posse and they all fucked him.
I'm saying we at the Social Disruption endorse killing your abusers. Am I right?
Yes, 100%. If you're being abused, fucking if you can. We probably shouldn't do this.
Fuck them up. Fuck them up.
Should we do this? Should we promote?
Absolutely not.
But that's stuff. That's what's a word?
Also, if you take any of our advice, the consequences are on you. We take no responsibility
No,
for
we take no
any of your actions.
But kill people, please.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So the city council of Sharona condemned Damon and his friends to death. And what do you think he did after that? You're right.
Is it sexual?
No, you're right, Zach. He killed the council too.
Yes.
So,
Dude, where is this gonna get bad? Because I'm loving it.
So,
I don't know.
he's
after
a
Damon,
savage.
Damon kills
Damon's
his suitor and then kills the council for putting him to death for killing said suitor, his friends took to the countryside plundering it. He comes full on Greek
Man
pirate.
just turned into a bandit.
Shit. I'm loving David. And David was a victim, right? Like
He was about to be.
He's the victim of the guy approaching him. And honestly, now that we think about it, what if this dude didn't even do it like in a bad way? You know? Because all it says is he attracted the attention of a Roman military commander who apparently loved him, and he refused the commander's advances.
So
That's all it says. So it may not.
Yeah. So he was like, "Can I buy you a drink?" And he's like, "No." And then it started.
And then he killed. And then he killed.
He killed him, all of his friends, the people that,
the justice system.
the justice system.
Yeah.
And then he just like, all right, I'm going after the
Just
whole
murdering
countryside. Let's
everybody.
do it.
Fuck
Like,
yeah.
I'm
dude.
so tired of people
guess-
thinking that I'm gay. I'm just gonna kill everybody in
Exactly,
the entire
yeah.
country.
Okay.
So
No homo.
No homo. That's
So-
what he had etched into his sword.
Is there like an ancient Greek translation of no homo? Let's see if we can find that out. That's what we call this episode.
No homo. Yeah.
Hold on. Let me look it up. Google Translate.
Google Translate to Greek no homo.
That's what was in his fucking sword.
No homo. Go from English to what we say Greek.
Greek. Yeah.
Please
Oh,
try.
I can't read that.
Please try. Or is it just fucking
It's just symbols.
symbols? Yeah.
It's like just symbols. There's like upside down S here.
Just picture that in his sword
Let's post that back into
with every gayfer he stabs.
and put
Greek
it
back
into
to English right there.
Fucking mad.
Not gay.
We're so mature.
This is supposed to be ghost stories.
Okay, so to finish the ghost story, after he plundered the countryside and returned back to the country, townspeople killed Damon and
hate to see
boarded his body up in the bathhouse, where a long while thereafter, certain phantoms appeared in the place and groans were heard there, as our fathers tell us. The door of the vapor bath was walled up, and to this present time, neighbors think it was the source of alarming sights and sounds. So a boarded up bathhouse with nobody in it, because I know what you're thinking. Gay dude, bathhouse, moaning sounds.
That's why I said this was getting sexy. A minute.
Yeah. But yeah.
So he was boarded up in the bathhouse that he was approached in the first place?
Yes.
Oh, that's
He was
fucking...
thrown in there. He was killed, thrown in there. They boarded it up completely, and people heard like moans and all kinds of weird noises coming from there for a long time.
Was he really dead when they boarded him up?
I mean,
Apparently not. He was
he
having
might-
a good old time in that bathhouse. He was like, maybe being gay ain't too bad after all.
Yeah, maybe
I'm
it's
sorry
not
I
bad.
killed all those people. I'm trying to kill your butt.
Get that.
this isn't necessarily a ghost story. I'm sure you're
This
aware
is a
of this.
ghost fucking podcast.
It has to do with ghosts. Okay. Are you familiar with the? I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation. Aokigahara Woods, the suicide forest.
Yeah, no, you
Suicide
actually didn't
forest.
butcher it. I'm
Oh,
pretty
really?
sure you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you.
Aokigahara.
Okay, you just did, but last time.
Aokigahara Woods.
Aokigahara, I think so.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. The suicide
That's
forest.
where that fucking douchebag Jake Paul went in.
Yep.
And fucking.
Yep. And
But
it's,
honestly, like, I mean, I hate
videotaping the bodies hanging from the trees and shit.
the dude, but I probably would have done the same shit.
I mean,
I don't think he went in there like.
But you
with that.
didn't, and that automatically makes you a better person.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was a better person than
Yeah.
This
that.
is also becoming a shtick for our episodes. Is we just pick a celebrity and shit on them every
At
episode.
least one episode.
I
yeah.
mean, he's just, god damn it.
He is
God, that's all I can say is, God
Not a
damn it.
great guy.
not a good guy. All right, back. Shh.
Yeah, chicken
All
noodle
right,
soup smells good.
bringing it back down.
Can we talk about our chicken noodle soup on this? Because that shit smells awesome.
I mean, we will. Yeah, but the Aokigahara Woods, located at the foot of Mount Fuji in Japan. The corpses of dozens of suicide victims have been found over the past 2 decades, and the forest has become a popular place for troubled Japanese citizens to end their lives. Today, there are signs in the forest urging people not to end their lives and asking them to get help.
At the entrance, yeah. I've seen
Given
those.
the number of suicides that occur in the forest, ghost stories are abound, including several alleged encounters with the apparitions of those who have died there, which can be seen on YouTube. Not going to pull any up, but
No, I understand it's a respect thing, but for me, it's a curiosity thing. I will go look at that kind of shit.
No, absolutely.
It's and that it's right in the entrance. It's obviously.
I didn't know that it was at the base of Mount Fuji. That's interesting.
yeah.
Actually, no, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, you can go look it up, like pictures, and they'll show you pictures of like the signs and stuff. But
Yeah.
fortunately, they like not too many actual photos like past the entrance get by, just because of how prevalent.
Yeah.
Like I think I saw somewhere on Reddit one time say that like 1 out of every 3 times you go there, depending on how far you are, how long you're there, you'll see someone hanging.
Yeah, it's not far. Yeah, it doesn't take much. And
That's
I saw
insane.
there's even like Netflix movies.
Yeah.
based
Oh
on
yeah,
that.
there was one.
Yeah, it was real cheesy, but it was actually pretty interesting.
Wasn't Natalie Dormer in one of the?
I really
Suicide
I
Forest
couldn't
movies?
tell you a name. Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever heard of the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall? It is the most famous ghost captured on footage photo of all time.
No shit. No.
Well, maybe you've seen the picture, but you don't know what it's called. I'm gonna show you the picture.
Yeah, I want to see the picture. Oh yes, I've seen
You
this.
seen that picture?
Yep.
That's called the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall, and it is like, to this day, I think it's still considered
The most compelling.
the most compelling and the most famous. In 1936, a photographer taking pictures of the 300-year-old Raynham Hall in Norfolk, UK, captured an image of an apparition floating down the stairs. It's one of the most famous ghost photos ever taken, although some experts may believe it was caused by double exposure.
Some experts.
Yeah, right. What do they know?
Yeah, so yeah, fuck them.
How are you
But
an expert on ghosts?
You're gonna tell me some?
Yeah.
Like, that's okay then.
I feel like if they're experts, then
You
all
didn't-
of them should agree.
Yeah, you didn't say the majority, so I'm going.
I mean,
with the,
only
wanna
9
believe-
out of 10 dentists recommend toothpaste.
Yeah,
Exactly.
what's
So-
that other guy doing?
How many ghost experts can recommend that a picture is legitimate?
Yeah.
Did they say 9 out of 10? They sure fucking did.
There's not even a number. It just said some.
What kind of how vague is that?
The manor, covering an area of 7,000 acres, has a long history of being haunted, and the BBC notes that the ghost may be of Lady Dorothy Townshend, the wife of the second Viscount of the estate. She died in 1726, supposedly of smallpox, after having an affair, which her husband, Lord Townshend, had learned about before her death. She is said to still wander the manor dressed in brown.
Do you think that she got smallpox during the affair?
Is this actually true?
Is
that-
smallpox an STD?
I think it's just. Are you googling
I'm,
it?
I'm
Googling it.
almost positive it's
Is
not.
smallpox
I'm sure it can be transmitted that way.
How is smallpox transmitted?
sexual?
I would say by touch. Is it airborne?
Most transmissions occur through intimate contact.
Oh no shit.
Damn.
Damn.
Well,
And the outbreak. So the outbreak was just a bunch of. It was like a big orgy.
Yeah,
It just fucking
essentially.
spread out.
That's fucking sweet.
See, I thought it was like airborne. I didn't know it was fucking.
see, we're learning all kinds. And honestly, you guys, STDs, that's even scarier than ghosts. Am I
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
Should we talk about
'Cause-
chlamydia? No, it's not.
You can call the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I don't know who you're gonna call
You can't
about
call
an
it the
STD.
clapbusters.
The Clapbusters.
For when the claps back.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right, now we're going to go into probably the most famous haunting story of all time.
Can you
know
guess?
I honestly, there's a few. The haunting in Connecticut is probably one of the most famous. Or
that is high up there.
Amityville.
That's the one we're doing.
Damn.
This is the next one, Amityville.
I've got 2 big ones for
And
you.
can I say that I'm a huge fan of the original Amityville horror movie? But then Ryan Reynolds came in and fucking killed it with the new one. I'm not gonna lie.
Wait, you
And
don't
I'm
feel
not
that
a big
in a bad
fan.
way?
I'm not a big fan of remakes. No, I mean that in a good way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah,
was gonna say,
I've
like-
only seen the Ryan Reynolds version.
Oh, you haven't seen the original? Oh yeah. I mean they changed up a
It'll be
little
about
bit.
to be a movie night.
No shit. They changed up I changed it to a little girl as opposed to I think in the first one it was like a pig monster. Like
Okay.
it really resembled a pig.
Okay.
I think it was a little girl in the second one where she got locked in the closet with it. Let's see. Yeah, we gotta.
Yeah,
We're
I was
gonna have
gonna
we gotta have a movie night then.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
All right. So, for those of you that don't, Dakota, you absolute dog brain shit of a person. Are you aware with the Amityville?
I'm really not learned on ghost stories and stuff, so all of this is new information to me.
See, and a lot of like the movie kind of I don't know makes it more like sensationalize and dulls it down. Like, it's different. The actual story is different from the movie, of course, because they're going to exaggerate.
Right, yeah. It's going to be an adaptation. You're going to do what you need to get reviews.
Yeah.
And the Amityville one actually has the most famous ghost photo that most photography experts are bamboozled by.
They can't.
Like, the lady at Branham Hall, I actually knew, like, shortly after first seeing that one, that some experts, like, say it's double exposure, which kills it a little bit, but whatever. A lot of photography experts have, they're a little concerned about the Amityville one, and I'll pull it up and show you guys.
Yeah, I want to see it.
And we'll post
actually can't tell you that I've seen this.
Yeah, we'll post it on the podcast page, like,
Is it
in the comments.
Is it a photo of the house?
It's not the front of the house, it's inside.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know this one.
I've seen pictures of the front of the house and everything like that. Like, I know
I've
a
seen
little bit
pictures
about
of
the
the front
story.
of the house, and I've seen people try to pick out things in the windows that they can see, but I've never seen.
There's a lot of doctored photos of things in the windows, but this is one taken in the house.
Okay. I'm skeptical about it. I mean, I'm a pretty firm believer in the paranormal, but I'm very skeptical when it comes to photos and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
Well, let me lay some background on you boys for a second.
Please do it.
30 miles outside of New York City, nestled in the Long Island town of Amityville, stands the house forever linked to the Amityville horror phenomenon. On November 13th, 1974, the estate was the scene of a mass murder. Using a .35 Marlin rifle, 23-year-old Ronald J. DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family while they were asleep, which included his parents and 4 siblings.
Okay.
Now, 13 months after, the Lutz family purchased the 5-bedroom, 3.5-bathroom home at a drastically reduced price of $80,000. And then in parentheses it says, due to the murders. Like, we don't know why it's drastically reduced.
Yeah. I feel like these days it would be up. Like, it would be up. The price would be up.
Oh, I guarantee you, if that house ever went up for sale again, it would be
went up for sale in
incredible.
2017.
Because that lust for how much? 300.
$605,000.
Oh god damn! I was way below.
Significant.
Yeah. And that just shows the difference in society now. Like,
it's a pop culture event.
Exactly. That's perfect. Pop culture is what I was.
I mean, you know how many spooky bitches out there want to believe they lived in the Amityville house? Like,
Here we go again with the spooky
bitches. Yeah, the witches and shit.
Yeah. So
the Edgar Allan hose.
You throw a fucking black sun hat on, and all of a sudden,
Oh boy, get some fishnets going.
I mean, I'm cool.
Fake teeth.
I'm okay with it.
I mean, I'm about it.
What about it? It's turned into something else. What am I supposed to do with this motor? Just fucking.
There's a little scare razzle over there.
Sorry. Edit that out.
all right, reel it in.
Really?
Tell me what to do.
He murdered his entire family, including his parents and 4 siblings. 13 months later, this Lutz family comes in, buys the house, and only lasted 28 days in the house. And the things they went through in the 28 days living in the house is what's referred to as the Amityville horror. Like, the actual event itself is horrific, but whenever you associate ghosts, you're associating it with the Lutz family and the 28 days they spent there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see,
this is absolutely no relation to that movie 28 Days Later, right?
No relation. That's a completely... That's zombies.
That's like in Alaska and shit, right?
Okay.
Is it?
I actually didn't know that
Yeah, it's
the
set in
Amityville
Alaska.
horror was on Long Island. That's actually really interesting.
Aren't you from Long Island?
I'm not.
Cool.
I mean, I'm from New York, but
Well,
I'm not
there's
from
that.
Long Island.
All New York just blends together.
See, I know with the movie they like went like a totally crazy route, like saying that this guy was it Henry Ketchum? The whole Ketchum and Killing thing from the movie. I don't know if you saw the newer movie.
Yeah.
Where they wrote it out in magnets on the fridge, and it was like I think it was Henry Ketchum or something.
No relation to Ash.
No, no. But
Also,
like,
no relation to Ash versus the Evil Dead.
no,
Different guy.
Totally different shit. But what? Where was I fucking going? Oh yeah,
Mr. Ketchum.
It was this guy Henry Ketchum apparently took Native Americans and kept them in this basement, held them captive, and tortured them. I'm pretty sure that's what the movie, the newer movie, kind of like was about. And that's where the Ketchum and Kill 'em came from. Like it was like ketchup with an M.
Fuck.
Okay.
That's how I remember it in my head.
Oh yeah, that's a good way, I guess.
But anyways, next story.
So here's some of the things that the Lutz family experienced in their 28 days inside the house. Stepfather George Lutz was said to just wake up at 3:15 a.m. every single morning without any explanation, no sounds, no noises, just naturally just wake up, which is in like a very short time period, which is around the time when Ron DeFeo carried out those original murders. The Lutz family claimed to they claimed to smell strange odors, see green slime oozing out of the walls and keyholes, and experience
green slime.
My kids make that shit all the time.
They experience cold spots in certain areas of the house, which is a very common like ghost sighting phenomenon.
It's the ectoplasm, you know, it's cold. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Sounded good.
I think it's more of like that's from like Ghostbusters.
I said I have no fucking idea what I'm talking about.
He's
dude.
just
I'm
like
just,
ectoplasm.
I am
My chance
flying
to
by
throw
the
word
seat of
in.
my pants here.
When a priest came to bless the house, he allegedly heard a voice scream, "Get out!"
So were the dead flies in the windowsill and stuff just part of the movie?
No, that was a real thing.
Okay.
There was like dead flies in like every windowsill of the house.
But
There was.
go ahead, finish.
Oh, sorry.
No,
A nearby garage door opening and closing by itself, an invisible spirit knocking a knife down in the kitchen, and then this is what you said earlier, a pig-like creature with red eyes staring down at George Lutz and his son Daniel from a window.
Yep.
George waking up to wife Kathy levitating off their bed, sons Daniel and Christopher also levitating in their beds. And what was it about the flies, and what else did you say like from the movie?
The flies on the window, like flies were dying like in like mass amounts on the windowsill, just piling up.
This wasn't an article I read, but I've heard that before, not from the movie.
And it was in the movie too.
Yeah.
But then again, like I mean, you think when you buy a house, like I'm not, like, I try to be a skeptic. Like I'm a believer too, but I have to be a skeptic at the same time.
Or else you're just gonna be paranoid.
Yeah, like and so when you buy a house like that, and I'm sure they knew the history. Like who the fuck didn't know the history of the house? Like you had to have. So of course you're gonna go in there with your mind already thinking like this shit's gonna happen. And so I wonder if a lot of it's just kind of suggested so much that they kind of start to believe it too.
Right.
I mean, the levitations and stuff, obviously,
Yeah. So
can't say much, but
So here's where some things get a little dicey. After telling their story, George and Kathy took a lie detector test to prove their innocence. They passed, but you can't really trust lie detector tests a whole lot. They were bogged down in legal and financial issues, which prompted skeptics to believe they had motive to create a fantastical story to sell to the public. Their former lawyer, William Weber, who fell out with them over their money issues, came out in 1979 claiming the three of them came up with the story over many bottles of wine.
Many bottles.
But like, think about it. Would you not like if you think you could capitalize all this? Would you not maybe do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. You see, in one of your ex-clients getting a payday off of this, you're obviously going to cop them out. Like, hey, come listen to my story. I'm trying to get a cut of this paycheck too.
Let me write a book about it. Let's make a movie about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
The son, Daniel Lutz, who lives a quiet life in Queens, New York as a stonemason, claims the house ruined his life and that he continues to have nightmares to this day. The actual murderer, Ron DeFeo, who's still alive, he's serving 6 25-year life sentences at a New York correctional facility. He claims he heard voices urging him to kill his family that night. So, you know, if we're just taking all people's with a grain of salt here, there was some spooky shit happening before Ron DeFeo murdered his family. If you want to, you know.
But then, like, I mean, you could look at it from the standpoint that he was just mentally ill.
Yeah.
And he did that, and then these people capitalized off it, and it became this big movie. It became this big, like, thing, you know? So, I try to be skeptical, but then at the same time, like, I've experienced shit, too. So,
yeah.
We'll get to all that.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
The Amityville house officially sold in February of 2017 to an undisclosed owner for $605,000. It had been previously owned by 4 other families since the murders, one which changed its address from 112 Ocean Avenue to 108 Ocean Avenue. So people are confused about which one it is.
It was Ocean Avenue?
Yeah.
Is that why the fucking Yellow Card song came out?
I'm pretty sure it's exactly what it is.
Are you serious?
I'm full of shit.
But no, it could work, though.
I mean, it could be. I don't know.
I'm going to fucking listen to that song on the way home. Painfully, but I'm going to do it.
No, you can't sing it. We'll have to owe the money.
Well, how's it go? It's fucking...
There's a place off
Ocean Avenue.
I told you, I can't sing. I felt
DeFeo.
actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm singing like shit, so it's not even like royalty worthy.
Catch a man, kill him, and shit.
Yeah. So that's the Amityville Horror. And let me pull up that picture for you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Save it
You
too,
said
so
the
we
one-
can post it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one inside the house?
Yes.
That's what you're posting? Can I clear my snot out on the microphone?
The photo below was allegedly taken inside the Amityville house in 1976. It has become one of the most famous paranormal photos of all time. It features what appears to be a young boy with wide eyes who is peeking out of a doorway. George Lutz revealed the Amityville ghost photo on the Merv Griffin show back in 1979, 3 years after it was taken.
So tell me, like, where in there was a little boy? So
Yeah, I mean,
where in the story was a little boy though?
One of DeFeo's sons or siblings.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to be skeptical, but you made a good point.
So, the camera captured the Amityville ghost boy photo that a lot have speculated could be the ghost of the murdered child, John DeFeo, who lived in the house with the family. And that's the photo right there.
Okay, wow. I was expecting it to be like shit.
Real shit? Is it good?
That's not bad.
Oh, dude.
He took it in the house. He took the photo in the house when he was by himself.
Yeah.
No one else in the house. And he took the photo. We're going to link the photo on our Facebook page. On
That's
the social
fucking,
page.
that's trippy.
Yeah. You ever seen that photo?
No, I've never seen
I
that
like
photo.
the picture of the little boy in the corner next to it, like comparing the way that the ghost looks to
On the stairs,
actual
peeking around the stairs. Yeah.
to the actual kid. That's crazy.
He does. He fits his description pretty well.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so it's well, I don't know where to put all our stuff.
Just put it on the desktop. That's fine.
So we
Got that.
So that's the Amityville story. If you were aware, I learned a lot about it while researching this case. I only knew a couple of details, like I knew the pigman. I knew DeFeo murdered his family.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know exactly the extent. I think I knew the levitating, and that was about it.
And it's easy to get lost in the movie and kind of drown the other like actual facts out. But that's what
Right.
Like you get lost in the writing in the movie and.
Let's see. I'm gonna pull up a sound clip for our next story.
Oh shit!
All right.
Oh, I love this shit.
Have either of you ever heard of the Enfield poltergeist?
Infield, Infield.
Enfield.
Nope.
Ooh.
Not that the first one would have been any fucking sense, anyways.
Interesting.
I'm like, how does it spelt? Like, that fucking makes sense.
Right.
All right, so the Enfield poltergeist is actually considered to have the best recording of a ghost,
EVP.
it's on just a recorder. It's no video.
It's called a fucking EVP.
Is that what it's called?
Come on, man.
Electronic voice phenomena.
And you ever seen the
I thought
movie?
he researched.
Apparently not. I'm supposed to be the one that doesn't
He
know
doesn't
shit.
even know the terminology.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. Don't do shit.
Did y'all?
Cut out that I'm kidding. I want everybody to think I'm mad at you.
Okay.
You fucking piece of shit.
Have you ever seen The Conjuring 2? I'm sorry. I just wanted to know.
Cut that out.
This man just ripped a fat vape.
Yeah, this is blunt. No, I mean, honestly, I just rewatched The Conjuring probably about a week ago. I don't think I've seen the second one.
Okay.
You're saying the second one is about the Enfield?
The second one is based off of the
Right.
Enfield poltergeist.
Really, but this is the Warrens, right?
The Warrens do feature
And
this.
we're gonna get into that
because
later. But let me say now that I watch all that and kind of get annoyed with it because I know how the Warrens are.
Yeah, and that reminds me, the Amityville case was the first high-profile case that the Warrens ever worked on.
They did Amityville?
Yep. They sure did?
Huh. So, but then, never mind, we'll get into that. I just think it makes me so mad.
The more you know.
The fucking...
So, the Enfield poltergeist was a claim of supernatural activity at 284 Green Street, a council house in Brimsdown, Enfield, England, between 1977 and 1979, involving two sisters aged 11 and 13. Some members of the Society for Physical Research, such as inventor Maurice Gross and writer Guy Leon Playfair, believed the haunting to be genuine, while others were unconvinced and found evidence the girl had faked incident for the benefit of journalists. So this one is one that kind of goes pretty up in the air.
It's hit or miss.
Yeah. Let me go over.
I mean, there's skeptics in every case too, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In August of 1977, single-parent Peggy Hodgson called police to her rented home in Enfield, claiming she had witnessed furniture moving, and two of her four children said that knocking sounds were heard on the walls. The children included Margaret, age 13, and Janet, age 11. A police constable said that she saw a chair wobble and slide, but could not determine the cause of the movement. Later claims included disembodied voices, loud noises, thrown toys, overturned chairs, and children levitating.
Levitating again, just like Amityville.
over.
That's like the hardest to debunk. Like,
Yeah.
But then again, it could just be a kid arching their back in bed and.
Now here's the part that's super interesting. Whereas Amityville was just one family saying they experienced all this. Over a period of 18 months, more than 30 people, including neighbors, physics researchers, and journalists, said they variously saw heavy furniture moving of its own accord, objects being thrown across the room, and the daughter seeming to levitate several feet off the ground. Many also heard and recorded knocking noises and a gruff voice. The activity house attracted considerable press attention, and the story was covered in British newspapers such as Daily Mail and Daily Mirror. Which is interesting, because Amityville, it's like, hey, it's one family. Over, like, what, 28 days, it said?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's kind of, you know,
This
whatever.
says there was, what,
30 people over
30
18
different people
months
over the course of almost 2 years
That experienced it.
that were, like, visitors
witnessed it.
and...
And saw
witnessed
the
it,
levitation, saw the chairs moving.
Yes.
And Daily Mail's reputable.
Yeah, Daily Mail
yeah,
and
it's
Daily
definitely
Mail.
actual legitimate.
So, like,
See, and I've definitely never heard of this. I guess I'm more educated on more like American,
yeah.
you know, and stuff that
I
happens.
got you.
in
Well,
yeah,
my
this
favorite-
is, like, worldwide stuff.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
favorite
see, that's-
podcast did an episode on this that was super interesting. I'll have to try to find some of those video clips because they had a tape recorder and they recorded like a couple of weird sounds that they didn't even call like voices. Janet started to develop multiple voices. One of the voices she called Bill displayed a habit of suddenly changing the topic. It was a habit Janet had also had.
So Janet was.
The 11-year-old.
The 11-year-old, the
So
younger.
this is more than a poltergeist, a possession,
A little bit, if you were to believe that Janet actually had voices.
or Janet was schizophrenic.
Possibly.
Also that.
The Society for Physical Research members Maurice and Guy Leon Playfair reported
Paranormal.
curious whistling and barking noises coming from Janet's general direction. Although Playfair maintained that the haunting was genuine and wrote in his book that an entity was to blame for the infield disturbances, he often doubted the children's veracity and wondered if they were playing tricks and exaggerating. Still, they believed that even though some of the alleged poltergeist activity was faked, other incidents were genuine.
See, like with children though, like I can understand them trying to fake stuff, but not well.
Yeah.
Because I have children, and I know how they are, and I know how they can even scare themselves when they're trying to do stuff like that, and they'll quickly change their story. They'll quickly be like, "It's not real. It's not real, right, Daddy? It's not real."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm shook.
yeah,
I'm not ready for this
I shouldn't
right
have
now.
barked for my direction.
All right, boys. I actually have a recording of Janet, the 11-year-old from the infield poltergeist. Now,
Dun, dun, dun.
now this is
my gasp.
now this is the God, the audio clip. The file for that is so big. It's like this while we're talking, and it's like this big.
Is it that big?
Yeah.
It just like rips the whole fucking sound.
Hold on.
Let's try this.
All right. I guess this is actually this is the actual recording from the physical investigators that were investigating the infield poltergeist, and you're gonna hear two voices on this. You're gonna hear the one main detective dude, I forget his name, and then you're gonna hear a voice that is coming from the body of an 11-year-old girl named Janet. Let's take a listen.
And that's her alternate persona known as Bill, right?
Yes.
Wait,
Okay.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Let's see. Let's. Uh, 11-year-old girl is what that's coming from.
Yeah,
I heard like God in church.
Yeah.
Does it give you like a caption of what it says, or
There may be a transcript out there somewhere.
but it's all just really a guess. Like I mean, but
Yeah.
it's hard. Like
It's kind of hard to.
that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it's hard to explain.
spooky.
Spooky as fuck.
Yeah, there's a 5-minute recording video out there that will link. In this, when we post this episode, we'll link this 5-minute video, and it is the first time I heard that, I thought that was scary.
That's fucking It's were you by yourself, dude? Like,
Yeah, I was listening to a
Fuck
podcast by myself, and they played this, and they played a little more of it. And I don't know if y'all could hear it. Like, I don't know if it picked up on that. I'll have to look. But there was like some rattling around, and it was things rattling around the room while they were recording.
yeah, I could hear.
You
it.
said that they were like a bunch of stuff like flying off the walls and like shaking around and rattling and all kinds of stuff like that. Everything.
And that was
like,
her voice. So it's more like I said before, it's got to be more than poltergeist. Like if she's actually being possessed, or
Yeah, it's
because that voice shouldn't come out of an 11-year-old girl.
right.
Absolutely not.
When we're
And you
talking,
said, what were you talking about? Alternate persona of Bill.
so,
Yeah. That was like the voice.
of Bill. It says
Bill is
my
one that
name is
died.
Bill.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's one of the things that says in the beginning. I might have played the video after it says it, but it straight up says, either call me Bill or my name is Bill. And it doesn't, they don't ever mention anyone named Bill having died in that house or anything like that. So I don't know if they know exactly where the name comes from, but the voice that was coming from to refer to itself as Bill.
It's a terrifying name.
It is terrifying. That's there's a lot of that. The podcast I went into was like 2 hour-and-a-half long episodes. So about 3 hours it went into the infill poltergeist. And that podcast is the last podcast on the left. I don't remember the number of the podcast. It was like 211 or something.
You were telling me about that podcast.
But yeah, it's
Really good.
they do a 2-parter on it, and it is.
Should we plug it?
I mean, they don't need us, but but if you're into paranormal, also true crime, serial killers, alien conspiracy, all that shit, last podcast on the left is amazing.
Oh, can we do serial killers one time?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
I'm
absolutely.
coming back.
Oh, yeah.
I guess
Come on,
shit
my
on
bad.
serial killers.
Wait.
That's what I meant. I didn't mean I was going to do another podcast.
Well, I'm glad we're on the same page now.
So that covers it for that, but that's going to kind of segue into talking about the Warrens for a second.
Yeah.
I actually just
Let you take it away here first. Let's see what you got. I know you said you
The
had
Warrens?
a little bit of an opinion on them.
Well, I mean, we had a little talk about it before, and he didn't have to say much to make me realize that they're frauds. They're definitely con artists, and they're just like a lot of psychics, man. They prey on people. They prey it's not even discounting paranormal activity, but they make it easier for people to discount paranormal activity. I think because when you have such huge frauds in it, then it's easier for people to say that it's all bullshit.
Yeah, it's easier to discount the entirety
Of it, yeah, because of that.
At the forefront of the entire industry is people that are just critically acclaimed as being fake.
Exactly, yeah, and they're one of the biggest in the business, so of course, yeah, and so, yeah, I don't have any. I can't tell you anything specifically. I can't give you any facts or any background or any proof that they're fake or they're bullshit, but. A lot of people look at them and they see them in The Conjuring, and
Stuff about Amityville Horror,
and
Poltergeist, all
it
this
gives
kind
them
of
a
stuff.
lot of like validity just from those movies. But
There's all these high-profile examples of how they are literally just taking advantage of people.
See, I don't know those accounts, but I can say just from I don't know. Like,
well,
go ahead,
I've got a couple examples.
please. Yes.
So their first ever publicized big investigation was the Amityville house. In 1974, shortly after the Lutzes moved out, the Warrens participated in a quote-unquote psychic slumber party shortly after the Lutzes abandoned their new home.
Did you say quote unquote?
Yes, because
That's what they called it.
Yes, they called it a
slumber party.
yes.
Oh no.
Lorraine sensed great malevolence in the house and insisted it was infested with demonic entities. The TV appearance, because they got a local news station, they got cameras. The TV appearance catapulted the Warrens as experts in the field of paranormal research, despite the fact that they presented no concrete evidence of their findings. And they had no real evidence in any prior cases that they had worked on up till then. So that's kind of where they started. They kind of just jumped on Amityville when it started getting real famous, and they came in and, tried to ride that high while they could.
Of course, yeah.
So
And there was actually, but there was like a movie about a woman that actually did that for a living. I cannot pinpoint like what the movie name was or anything, but she was a paranormal investigator that went in and just did it to make money. Like, oh, I can see your husband, and they had all these little tricks of the trade and stuff like that.
Right.
So it makes you wonder if they were kind of those people.
One of those exorcism movies.
Actually, it doesn't make you wonder. They were those kind of fucking people.
One of the exorcism movies, not Emily Rose, but there was another one.
That was a good one, though.
That was a very good one. I like that one a lot. It was another exorcism movie that starts out as fake Warren type people.
Okay. Are they like? Are they in like they go to us and then it turns out it's her husband died or something like that, and she.
So it turns out she's actually possessed.
Okay.
And then they die.
Okay, I'm thinking of something else.
It's great.
There was one where like this woman, she didn't believe in it, and her husband had died, and she wanted to have contact with her husband, but she found the con artistry in it and started being a con artist, and then she went to this one house, and it turns out that the haunting was actually real. And I think within the movie, her husband came to her and all that shit. Like, okay, we can cut this out. But
no, that's.
I'll have to find out what it is, and we'll have to like have like a movie night one night.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great.
One of the most famous cases that the Warrens are associated with is the doll Annabelle, which started
with, of course.
Yeah.
It started as just a side part in The Conjuring, but got its own trilogy of movies.
I was gonna say it turned into like a whole series.
Yeah, there 2 or 3.
I think the third one just came out this year.
I'm gonna fact check that.
Yeah,
make sure.
But a little backstory on that: a nursing student received a Raggedy Ann doll from her mother in 1970. It exhibited strange behavior, and then a medium revealed that the doll was possessed by a dead woman named Annabelle Higgins. The student and her roommate took sympathy on the spirit and allowed Annabelle permission to inhabit the doll. However, frightening happenings began to occur, and the students contacted the Warrens to investigate.
Which pisses me off, because if you know anything about paranormal anything, you do never invite a doll or invite an entity into anything. Or
no, of course not. I mean, I don't fuck with dolls anyways.
No, and
regardless of whether or not they're possessed.
Yeah,
and especially not if they are.
Yeah,
like,
I don't fuck
with
Ouija boards. I don't fuck if you because you never know what's a demon. You never know it could come to you as a child, and it could manifest. And especially if you invite it in, that's one. Sorry, go ahead. That always annoyed me about him. Like somebody invited it into the doll.
Yeah.
If you know anything about it, you don't fucking do that.
That's 101.
That's 101.
Don't invite it. Don't even get the Ouija board out.
No, fucking no. I guess you can hang out with my doll, you demon. Like, what the fuck kind of shit is that?
When is playing with a Ouija board ever ended up good?
Never.
In a movie setting or a television or anything like that. You know, as soon as it comes out, you know shit's about to hit the fan.
Yeah. Any kind of invitation to the dead, it's bad news. Like, if it's there, because my thing with haunting is, more of, since I'm not a religious person, I'm not a person that believes in God or Satan. I think it's more of energy, and I believe more in residual hauntings. You know, or, not intelligent. I believe more in residual.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha.
I don't know, man. To invite, a negative energy, I'm not even saying it's demonic, to invite a negative energy into something,
you're just asking for trouble.
Yeah, I believe that we're all made of energy. And say fucking Charles Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer, they're made of bad energy. And if that energy has nowhere to go, it's going to find something to go to.
It's going to manifest somewhere.
And you don't invite that energy
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I used the Ouija board one time to contact one of my dead dogs, but it just kept saying walk over and over again.
Yeah. No. I fucking hate you. I was on a serious fucking path there.
You just fucked it all up.
Yeah. my
He's a throw ball.
My computer died also, even though I plugged it in.
Ball.
But
you fucking deserve that.
But that's okay, because I was on the last little bit anyways. But Annabelle was in 1970. Here's
I fact checked that, by the way. There are 3.
There are 3.
Movies, and the most recent one did just come out this year. It was June 26th, I think.
So 3?
Yeah.
3.
Here's the interesting thing about the Annabelle story. The story itself actually came from the Warrens. Yeah. They stuck it in their little museum behind a glass case, so whenever people came up, they told the story of it. Which, weirdly enough, coincidence maybe, in 1963 there was an episode of The Twilight Zone where a mother named Annabelle gives a doll to her daughter that turns out to be haunted by a spirit.
So
you don't say.
Yep.
What?
Well, I'll be damned.
7 years after that episode aired, Mr. Warren puts this doll in a case and claims that a nursing student had it And he also claims that the first man to ever come into the museum and mock it died in a motorcycle crash.
And this nursing student never came forward and confirmed this.
No.
Of course, why would she?
No.
So,
that fit well, and I mean, they made a lot of fucking money.
yeah. And
I mean, they were pioneers of the con.
Off of people's fucking despair.
I mean, and I don't know if y'all remember, the woman, Lorraine Warren, just died this year, back in April.
Yep, I do remember hearing
She
about
was
that.
92 years old. Yep.
I wonder what she's haunting. I want a Lorraine doll.
It doesn't ring as well as Annabelle.
I want to invite that into my home.
Fucking Lorraine.
But yeah.
So
But,
when did the dad die, though? Do you know?
I saw
Old
Ed. Look up when Ed
Dad.
Warren died.
When did Ed Warren
Did
die?
I say the dad?
He did.
Yeah, sorry, vodka.
The husband.
The whatever.
The boy.
the con man.
August 23rd, 2006.
Yep.
So
So he's been gone for a while.
he's been gone for a while. She went on a long time without him.
Oh, wow,
Or maybe
he
not.
changed
Or
around.
maybe not.
This man got around. He was he
got
fought
around.
he fought in World War II with the U.S. Navy, and he used to be a police officer, and then he became, it says right here, self-taught and self-professed demonologist.
Yeah. I feel like he that's even brought up in The Conjuring that he used to be a police officer.
I think it was
I'm pretty
actually.
sure.
But it's interesting. Just if you're listening and thought they were like super cool, like some kind of like ghost fighting exercising.
I did for a while
like,
too. So
just look into it a little bit because you'll find that the more you see, there's a lot more negative than there is positive. Like there's a whole lot of stuff going into the 80s that they did that was super sketch where they were trying to ride the like the evangelical like wave as it was coming in the 90s. I don't know if y'all remember, there was this dude in the 90s, John Edwards, who was doing like the Speaking to People Beyond.
yes.
The cold reading guy.
Yeah.
They
He
tried
did like live shows.
Yeah, they tried to ride that wave for a little while too. Their story's fascinating, but they're
just trying to get their hand in as many pockets as they
exactly.
Like I mean, con men are very, very clever.
can.
They are.
And
They're
that John
slippery.
Edwards guy, I remember,
Charismatic, clever.
he had me convinced for a while too, and I was young too.
Yeah,
But I mean, you pick somebody, you have an audience full of what,
People
75 people
that want to
that
hear something.
exactly that power of suggestion, you know.
All right. We got about 10, 15 minutes left. Let's talk about some IRL spooks of our own, boys. Yeah. Have y'all ever?
Yeah. I got
Zach, have you ever
I think-
encountered a ghost?
Well, I can't say I've encountered a ghost, but I was in a little hardcore project in Wyoming, and we all decided one night, me and all my bandmates, to go out to a cemetery out there.
Obviously. Okay.
And so we're going to the cemetery, and we bought digital recorders and stuff. Like we didn't have any video recording. We have digital recorders, and we're walking through the cemetery, and we come across we're talking, we're trying to anybody out there that wants to speak to us speak now, and we come up to this gravesite, and it's got an actual picture posted on it, and it's a girl, and she has piercings in her face and stuff, and we're all tattooed, pierced guys, so we're this could be the one person that could come forward to us because we all have that in common, you know.
That rapport built.
Yeah, we're all fucking degenerates.
You're coming.
Yeah, just degenerate ghosts can come to us. But so we start talking to this gravesite, trying to get something. We get nothing. We're probably about 15 minutes of it. So we decide we want to start walking up this hill to where it's a big graveyard. Start walking up this hill, and it comes to a point where I trip over the stick, and I'm like, shit, when I trip over the stick. And we didn't hear it till we got home. But when we got back home, we're listening to all the trying to gather all the evidence we got, and we're listening. And right as I trip over the stick, we hear a whisper. So we amplify it, and we hear either "we're dead," "we're dead," or "you're dead." That's what we hear in the whisper. So I bring it over to my dad, and I show it to my dad. My dad's he's skeptic, but he's get that the fuck out of my house.
Yeah.
And so my friend eventually sends it to a paranormal investigator, which could be just another con artist bullshit. But this dude's you need to get rid of that recorder, and we need to get rid of this evidence because whatever that could have been could have stuck with you, and all this stuff. And that's really, besides stories I've heard of my brother sleeping in bed and seeing little faces pop up at the end of their bed at night because they lived in this haunted house before I was born. My mom's got her stories. She lives in a 2-story house, and she slept on the second story, and she see this black hand. It was an old plantation home. This black hand slap her window every night.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she was fighting with my grandmother one night in the basement, and a drill bit flew at her head. like stuff like that. Like, but that's all secondhand.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Right.
like, and that's all.
She said.
But these are the stories that got me interested in the paranormal too. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
And so I never I have dreams one night I woke up scared in my room. I was like 4 years old and I went and crawled into bed with my dad and I could tell broad shoulders, wrap my arm around him. Then I woke up the next morning and my dad was a truck driver. He'd been on the road for a week. You know, stuff like that. My sister, same bedroom. She slept in my bedroom. Followed wet footsteps down the hallway all the way into the shower until she finally fully woke up and was like, "What the fuck's happening?"
Yeah.
You know, but it's never these give me the chills, but there's it's all little kids shit. You know what I mean? Like it's I never since I've been older. You know, I've gone ghost hunting and I've had my chill moments, like my you know the goosebumps, but never anything physical that I've seen. You know, or there's been times where I'm freaked out, but that's because I want to be freaked out. If that makes sense, you know, I go out for that rush.
It's like a confirmation bias kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're getting what you're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just never been. I've never had that I can't explain that moment. It's more of I want to explain that. I want to know. I want that to happen. You know, so it's my mind kind of makes it. And I'm skeptical, but I'm not opposed to the idea that
You're not closed-minded.
No, not at all.
Okay.
But I don't I don't fully believe in intelligent hauntings.
Okay.
Like I said, a lot of it's energy to me.
Yeah,
you know, and when we die, it's not even our soul; it's our energy has to go somewhere, and it can manifest in whatever it may be. Definitely not fucking Annabelle though.
Yeah. What about you, Dakota?
Top of my head, I really don't have a whole lot of experience with it.
No.
I was gonna see if there's anything that you could say.
I have one really spooky story. It was at my parents' house in Edgefield. My mom grew up in Greenwood, South Carolina, and she always said that in her some atmosphere,
Some hot takes.
Yeah, she said in her house growing up, she always heard slamming screen doors, a couple stuff like that. But in our house that they're living in right now in Edgefield, our living room is set up to where there's a TV at the end, and we're at the other side with the couches facing the TV, and behind us at the couches is the kitchen, right?
Right.
So when a TV is off, it's reflective, right? Because it's a black mirror, which is where Black Mirror gets its name from. It's whatever.
Makes total sense.
So there was one night, me and my mom were watching TV. It was not super late, like 10:30, like maybe 11 o'clock. And it's, time to go to bed. She was like, okay. So she turns the TV off. I'm looking at some stuff on my phone. She goes, "Who's that in the kitchen?" And instinctively, I look at her, and she's not looking towards the kitchen. She's looking at the TV right in front of us, which is the exact opposite of where the kitchen is. And she was like, "Look right there, right in the TV. Doesn't look." And in the TV, I swear to God, you guys, there was a reflection of probably a 10, 11 or so year old boy standing just perfectly still in our kitchen.
Transparent or just completely?
Just pretty solid in the reflection.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, naturally, first thing I do as fast as I can, whip my head towards the actual kitchen where he was supposedly standing. He wasn't there. He wasn't there. Neither was his reflection. I go in. I look all in the kitchen. I go outside. I do laps around every window and everything. I'm calling out. We're looking.
Nothing?
Nothing.
No.
And that is, to this day, the only real experience I've had. I've had.
Get the chills down your spine when you talk
It does. It does. And there was another one. It's a little less explained. I was coming up our driveway. We have a long driveway. It goes up and you can see the side of our house. And there was a ladder there, and the ladder flew across the yard. There was no wind that day. There was no one pushing it.
It takes a lot of wind to throw a ladder too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was it's just a 6 foot steel ladder. It's pretty light,
Steel ladder. I mean,
yeah.
As light as it may be, it's not. It doesn't have.
It's heavy
Yeah.
enough.
A sail on it.
I'm not talking about it just like that. I'm talking about it just
angrily,
violently.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just I think I just kind of chalked that up to wind, even though I knew there was no wind. I kind of made excuses for that one because I was like, that could be anything. But that form standing in the kitchen to this day still just freaks me out.
So yeah, no, I believe that. I believe you. And when I say energy, it can manifest into anything. It can manifest manifest.
It can
into
take a
form.
corporal form.
I'm not saying it just has to manifest into any like an object. Like it can,
An object. It can
Right.
it can
be
make a form. It can.
apparitions or whatever.
Yeah, and you can walk through it. You could get those chills down your spine. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like I think a lot of it is like people like me, people that like I don't believe in an afterlife. So where's my energy gonna go?
Right.
It's just gonna
Right.
it's
Do you
gonna
think that's
be
dictated
residual.
by what you believe in?
Religiously based, yeah. Like I mean, based on religion, what their beliefs are. Yeah, I guess it would be. So it's a good point because maybe a part of me maybe it's just drilled in my head that
There's all of those.
I have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But then you know about my seizure and my car accident.
Mm-hmm.
I was gone for 5 minutes,
Mhm.
and I didn't see a light. The only light I saw was when I was coming back,
Yeah.
and then the ambulance. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And if I wouldn't have come back then, where would my energy would have just kind of bounced
Yeah.
around. You know what I mean? And
I'd like
I
to
don't,
think you'd still be here doing the podcast.
I'm glad I'm fucking still
In
here.
one way or another.
Yeah, don't stop taking blood pressure medicine abruptly. That's what it was, man. That and coupled with stress, I guess that's what killed me.
Yeah.
Silly, like it's such a small thing, but like,
Yeah.
I'm very hypertensive, so I have really high blood pressure, and I take a strong dose of lisinopril, and just 2 days I didn't take it, and I was driving home and just fucking leaving Deans Ridge Road. The next thing I woke up in South Carolina, sideswiping a semi, and then I died.
Fuck.
Right?
Died.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah.
Happy to be back.
Glad to have you.
We're glad to have you.
Cut that out.
No, we're keeping every one of your shitty vapes.
I'm
In
trying,
here.
bro. Give me a Marlboro, I'll fucking kill this shit.
All right, well, that's all I have, boys. Do y'all want to throw in any last moment on ghosts in real life?
You got anything else, Zach?
I've been to a lot of places, but not like famously
Yeah.
paranormal, but like in the towns I live in, I've been told. And it's as fun as it is, and it really is fun going out looking for ghosts. It's an adventure, but I have yet to really see anything with my own two eyes.
Right.
I've had feelings, but then again, you can't base anything off feelings. You can't, in my opinion, you can't base anything off sound.
Right.
You kind of need like tangible.
I need to
evidence.
see it in front of my face.
Yeah.
The sound, like I mean, that's like this is all like auditory. Like I mean, auditory. Like the human mind does a lot of fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like it's very complex. So
It's so easy to trick yourself into believing things too. So.
exactly. I need to see a fucking little dead boy standing in front of me.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, hey, I'm dead. I'm a ghost.
Right? Like, believe in me.
And you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah, like, but I
I'm still
love
on the fence about this shit.
Yeah, I love the idea of it. I love I romanticize death a lot.
Okay.
I romanticize like I don't know, to get deep, like my wife's mom suicide. Like I romanticize like the steps it took for her to get to that point. Like all of it. Like there's a beauty to it, as gross as that might sound to a lot of people.
So sure, I completely agree.
Yeah. So like that doesn't stop there. There's something more in death too. And
Yeah.
if you die negatively, there's gonna be negative energy that sticks around too. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
But like you said multiple times now, that would have to go somewhere.
yeah, if I'm decapitated tomorrow by some dude with a fucking machete, my negative energy is gonna stick around. My fear, I think, is gonna stick around and manifest somewhere.
But the
I don't-
positive energy that you have throughout your life is going to be around too. You think those would separate and go their separate ways, or do you think it would be like some sort of like a gray?
And that's hard to say. Like it's really hard to say, man. Like it is. I think.
I'm not like trying to undermine you. I'm just
No, not at
legitimately
all.
curious,
Like, no,
like,
like,
how
that
you feel, like what you believe
that
in and
actually
stuff.
brought up like more to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that happy energy would stick with my wife and my kids and stuff, but that negative energy, you know, because of course it's going to be like if I'm terrified, if I'm locked in a fucking coffin, like I told you, my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm locked down in a box and fed through a feeding tube until I eventually fucking die of old age, like that negative energy is gonna stick there.
There's gonna be a lot of it.
Yeah, but I hope that positive energy is my positive energy of being a father and a husband is gonna stick with my wife too.
Yeah.
It's so complex, man. It's so hard.
It's interesting to think
or
about.
maybe
for
it's
sure.
not. Maybe it's fucking nothing too.
Yeah, it's all speculation.
It's hard, man. It's really
There's
hard.
no way of knowing
Yeah.
whether you're
I
right or
hope.
wrong.
I hope.
Yeah,
You
know,
and
but
that's all you can do.
Yeah, I don't hope that residual hauntings are a thing because that's a trapped spirit too.
Yeah.
Because that's scary. Like, I don't want to be trapped the rest of my life doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
You know.
Especially imagine being like your consciousness and spirit being trapped inside of like a doll like that.
Yeah.
You're an inanimate object. You can't fucking do anything. Like that would suck a lot.
You're in like you're paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For eternity.
And that's terrifying. But that makes more sense to me than you die and your spirit just goes around and just runs around and like, you know, like that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Honestly, like.
I mean, who's to know you'll even carry over feelings like helplessness that you're an inanimate object or boredom from being an inanimate object.
How much of your consciousness is going to come with you when you go?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You may be perfectly content inside that doll.
Yeah. Could you? I don't want all my conscious. I'd probably rather be a residual haunting than an intelligent haunting.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
That'd be really cool.
I don't want my conscious because you don't know. I imagine when you're a residual haunting, you're just following this path, and then it starts over like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It starts over, but you're not conscious to it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so I would rather that than me being conscious to the fact that I'm dead and I can't go hug my daughter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, you could, but you'd be the doll and it'd be creepy as shit.
Yeah. Or even if you're not the doll, I make my daughter cold every night when I go try to cuddle with her in bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I would much rather just it be blackness
Okay.
than that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's
Like
heavy. That's heavy, man.
That is heavy, but
I
it's
just brought my kids into it. And I'm like, oh,
it's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about, and I hope the people listening kind of think about it themselves. Like, what was that?
what the fuck was that? That just flew off the table.
Your phone's just broke.
Y'all missed it. My phone flew across the room. It was on the other side. Wow.
Wow. Oh my God. What the fuck was that?
Hope people listening kind of like think about themselves. Like, hey, you're going to die one day.
Wonder what's gonna happen.
Could be tomorrow.
No, but well, Zach, thank you so much.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's just a flat bar of sound over here. You'll have to come look at it.
I was doing like that,
But thank you for coming. Yeah, this was a blast. We enjoyed having you so much.
I love you guys so much. I can't wait to make out after this.
All right,
Absolutely.
Me neither. Did you learn?
I already forgot it, but yeah, I did.
Oh hell yeah, dude. Dakota, did you learn?
No,
I did. I learned a lot.
I really did. Like I did too.
I was saying, like, going into this episode, I really didn't have a whole lot of knowledge on this.
Yeah.
So, hearing both of you guys' perspectives on all of this has really been interesting, and it's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's been really good. I learned a lot.
Any last minute plugs? Dale Soup.
Dale Soup is my writing page. Fuck, it's been months since I've written on it though. I should probably get on it.
Can you get on
But
that horse, bud?
It's depressing though, because I do write a lot about my childhood.
Okay. I mean, we're all here to get sad once in a while.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're a victim of sexual abuse, come forward when you're ready.
Do you?
If that's
He's
what
on
it is.
Facebook as Greendad Zach, where he writes and posts a lot of hilarious stuff.
I also have Green Boy Zach, but that's my backup page because I do get banned a lot. I wrote a Holocaust joke and got banned. I couldn't tell you the joke right now because I don't want to get banned.
We're not going to ban you from the podcast. It's okay.
It is what gets us in
I don't
trouble.
remember it fully. And then
None of this is making it. None of this is making it better.
I hope it does. Come on. And then my Instagram, subtle as a brick. You can go there, see my balls in the bathtub.
Hell yeah.
All right.
I have a Twitter. I think it's Smack My Bitch Up or Zach My Bitch Up.
All right.
And but I don't really post on there because it's just I have like 2 followers. So
Nice.
um,
All right. Well,
Probably 2 more than I got.
yeah, I just don't.
Greendad Zach, Green Boy Zach, Dale Soup,
Green Boy BOY.
BOI, and then Instagram,
One word.
subtle as a brick.
Yeah, subtle underscore as underscore a underscore brick. I'm a brand new fan. So
Hell yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, next week's our super spooky Halloween episode.
Definitely looking forward to getting some scary stories out to you guys here pretty soon.
Yeah. And until then, I'm Dalton.
Dakota.
I'm Zach. I hope to be on more.
You will be.
Definitely.
You absolutely will be. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see y'all next week.
I love you guys so much.
Yeah. Good night.